about 10, 15 minutes tops before I have to get back. So.
Well, Brenda was just giving us a little bit of the history as to how uh, this practice came to hometown days. And if you want to go a little bit further into how it is, how you guys are managing that, so that the rest of the people on this call could get an idea, so they could use the same techniques or ideas on their festivals and events.
Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different, obviously, this year with COVID. Um, in previous years, if we start off as like for our volunteers, because obviously you need a ton of volunteers in order to make something like this happen. Our volunteers, we've actually used our middle school and high school students. They find it very enjoyable interacting with our guests that come to Special Day. And they're usually very excited to come back year after year. But this year, so I reached out to our principals at the middle school and high school, and they're not sure how that is going to work. So hopefully by that time rolls around, we'll be a little bit more lenient with some of our restrictions. So volunteers, we also have volunteers from other organizations. We have a dentist office in the area that they close the office for that day, and the whole staff comes down and enjoys Special Day and helps with things like that, with the games, and they are chaperones on rides. If a guest comes and doesn't have somebody with them that wants to go on the ride with them, then we have volunteers to help do that part as well. So is there anything specific that I can answer before I go on, or?
I would talk about what you had put out there this year, Amy, moving forward and how we're going to move forward this year.
Okay, so since this is the year of COVID, just last night I sent out our registration to all of the people that attended in 2019. Within the first hour and a half, I had almost 120 people registered. And as of this morning, when I woke up, there was over 150 people registered. Now, in a normal year, we would not limit the amount of people that attend. I think when the last one that we had in 2019, we had over 800. With COVID, for the first time, we've decided to cap our numbers at 300. And of course, that's all going to be based on what the state of Michigan and the CDC guidelines are. So that's just a ballpark number I came up with. Everybody over that 300 mark will get put on a waiting list. To register people, I use a Google form that I've sent to everybody, and it asks who the caregivers are, what the names of our guests, family members, what type of accommodations they might need. And this year, I have actually quite a few that need a soft food. Normally, we would serve pizza and hot dogs. So this year, I'm going to try and come up with something a little bit more creative for that smaller section of our guests that can't enjoy our pizza and our hot dogs, whether that's mashed potatoes and applesauce, or so I have some ideas on how to get around that. This year, we are, besides the limiting, everybody will be given a schedule. We're going to try and put groups of people together and have 4 sections to their day, and they will move as a group from the tent area for, let's say, an hour, and then they'll have lunch for an hour. They'll have our main show and our agriculture tent for an hour, and then they'll be able to enjoy the rides for an hour. Normally, the only time that we give people a set schedule would be for lunchtime. So we don't have 800 people crammed into the lunch tent all at once. But social distancing, we're going to try it this way and maybe have people do somewhat of a rotation through our different events that we have.
Amy, I have a question. Obviously, to when you first started this, which by the way, my hat's off to you. I think this is absolutely brilliant to be able to do this and include the members of our society that have special needs.
Mhm.
How was the conversation with your carnival vendor? You're at Swarts Creek, so you were dealing with Arnold Amusement. How what kind of reception and what kind of accommodations have they offered to you and to these individuals?
So Brenda just met with Arnold's, I believe, last week. So I'm going to let her answer that question.
So when we started this, they were all on board for helping us and offering their services free of charge for our special day event, based on what they feel is on picking the ride. So they determine by their guidelines and their insurances of what rides they are comfortable with opening up for special day. So they really pretty much set the parameters on which rides are going to be open. We don't really have a say on that. We appreciate the fact that they are allowing us to do this and, you know, doing it at no cost to us. So that's where we have the fine line, and everybody has to have a sticker, a name tag sticker that tells the ride workers that they are allowed to ride that ride. Yes, that is one of the biggest questions that we get in replies coming back from our visitors that have came, is that they wanted all the bigger rides. Well, we can't determine that. That's all based on Arnold's and what they feel and what their insurance company says. Does that answer that question properly?
Oh, it does, and I asked it because obviously this whole thing isn't possible if you don't get the support from your carnival, and I'm glad to hear that Arnold was so receptive to that. What other activities are there that are non-carnival related that are part of the event?
So we have a game tent that the guests can come and play. I want to say we had last year probably 30 different games. Most of them are handmade, from tossing the ring around the flamingo's neck to knocking over the cans with a ball. We have many games. They win prizes, and it could be just a little plastic figure dog. It could be a dum-dum sucker. So we have that. We also have a DJ and face painting. Now, face painting probably this year because of COVID will not happen, which they'll be very sad about. But I'm going to see about maybe getting stickers or something, tattoos. We have, besides game tent, DJ, face painting. Oh, our agriculture tent last year was open, and everybody that came through the agriculture tent was able to plant a flower in a little flower pot and take the flower pot home with them. They also get to enjoy our main show. Will perform once during that 4-hour period as well. So
you also get them bags so they can carry all of their items, and your resource room and your resource area too, Amy, along
yes,
with
so
with your
when they register, when they come in and register that morning, we give them a drawstring bag. Each of our guests will receive one. And in that bag, we'll have a map of the grounds, what time things are happening. And it also gives them something to put their little trinkets that they win, can go in that bag as well. One thing with registration that we're changing this year is because it starts at 10 o'clock, we have people that actually arrive on grounds by 9:15. So we're trying to cut down on some of the wait times at our registration area. And with our larger groups of 15 or more, we're actually going to mail those name tags that Brenda mentioned that people need to be wearing. We're going to mail those out to the different districts that register a group of 15 or more. That will cut down on the congestion during our registration time. We'll have this year extra hand sanitizer stations, extra, hand washing and all of that. Safety. We'll have the grounds will be marked with 6 feet slashes or X's or something in our food tent, so we know as they're getting in line that they can, keep somewhat of a social distance.
Amy, there's a couple of things that you mentioned that prompted some questions. One was the gift bag, or to be able to carry their things in. I'm assuming that most of the stuff is provided by some sponsors, and I'm assuming that because this is such a worthwhile activity, you probably aren't getting a lot of pushback from your sponsors.
So our sponsors, specifically for the gift bags, our American Legion Post 294 here in Swarts Creek, they were a very big sponsor in 2019, and we take their logos and we display them on those gift bags. Kroger was a big sponsor in 2019, so their logo was displayed on their goodie bag that they took. We also hang banners with the company's names and logos on them as well throughout the grounds. Sponsors, we've not really had an issue finding sponsors. It's a lot of them are our local companies that are very gracious with their money. And the UAW organization is also a large sponsor of ours for Special Day. So
I would almost think that you'd have sponsors fighting each other to be a part of this, because it is such a worthwhile cause, and to be able to be a part of something like this. How about media coverage? Have you had much media coverage on this? Because I'm not aware of. I know that there are other festivals and events that are doing this, but I'm not aware of anybody doing it to the same magnitude that Swarts Creek Hometown Days is doing it.
well, in 2019, the was it ABC 12, I believe?
We had a couple of them. There was a couple.
Yeah,
There was
they
ABC
actually
12 and Channel 5.
They actually came out and filmed during Special Day on that Thursday and interviewed different people. So there is media coverage. Brenda could probably talk to a little bit more of the media portion about it.
We have a couple each year that come out and try to film during that event for that morning. The concern that happens a lot, and we have to look into it more, is once people start seeing this on TV, they want to come, but it's pretty much closed by that time that they receive it. So, the pre-registering and all of that, we just can't have people coming up and wanting to join without pre-registering. That is the only dilemma that we get from so much media, is that people our phones start ringing and they want to come up right now and do the last hour. And that's where we're, is it a question right now, the topic of what do we do then?
And going back to the media, the name tags that we give people, We do, one of the questions when people register is if they give us permission to display photographs or take pictures of the guests that attend. So we do have some that say no, no pictures. So on that name tag, we put a dot, it's just a little sticker. And anybody with that sticker on their name tag, people are informed that those guests are not allowed to have pictures taken of them. So it's just one more way of ensuring their privacy. So.
How about the recruitment of volunteers? I would imagine that obviously to be able to pull off an event with the kind of numbers that you're having, you need quite a few volunteers. Any troubles finding those volunteers, or is there any groups that you are getting the majority of those volunteers from?
Well, so our middle school and high school, I try and put those students more with the games and the activities and whatnot. Our American Legion, we have a group of wonderful guys that come and they're there, and I've already got them lined up. They are out directing traffic, helping the buses get in, cars moving through, and the Kiwanis Club comes with the weenie wagon every single year. And the Kiwanis is a big help in our lunch tent. And then Kroger usually sends between 5 and 10 people. I think we even had more than last year, almost 20, I feel like. Kroger employees that came and assisted as well. I want to say my number last year for volunteers was probably close to 100. So.
Amy, someone put into the chat that they were curious as to how you were planning on handling the mask enforcement this year.
Well, that's going to be a work in progress.
All of us.
Yeah, so it's definitely a discussion that we'll be having as a committee on how that's all going to happen. And I was even thinking this morning, we also use as transportation because our festival grounds does not have a parking lot per se. We use MTA buses on that day. And as I was driving to work this morning, I was like thinking, oh, do I have to put a volunteer on each bus so that they are cleaning, and wiping down the seats and the rails with each run that they do? So it's definitely, this year is definitely a different year, trying to figure out all the logistics of the safety. So.
As far as sanitizing the buses, I think MTA can take care of that because they're using a chemical spray that lasts for hours, regardless of how many times it's touched. So check with MTA
Okay.
on that. You
Um,
might be able to take that one off your to-do list.
okay, good. I really hate to do this, but my time has come to an end. I'm so sorry. I have students in 3 minutes. So
My wife's
is there,
a school teacher also. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. We're just gonna load down Brenda and Susan for the rest of this.
yep, and they know what I know, they know. So thank you for having me. And if you have any more questions, you can shoot me an email.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
So, Susan, not only are you a member of the Swarts Creek Hometown Days, but you're also a board member of MFVA. And I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. As I said, former lifetime, I was vice president of Goodwill Industries in the Flint area and in Kalamazoo, and dealing with individuals with special needs has always been something near and dear to my heart. When you brought this up, I thought this is something that we definitely need to talk about because it's awesome. What else would you like to add to this?
Brenda, do you want to talk about the different resource agencies that Amy has reached out to that we added?
Yeah, I mean, she added a resource area where some businesses that specialize in that area for the parents, that it's called a resource tent. We call it a resource tent. But in that resource tent, we've also added a sensory area, which she has kind of filled with like a sandbox of sand, water. She's kind of left it where they can paint in silence. So that tent is basically there just in case one of our guests gets overstimulated, that they can take a time out and visit the sensory area and calm themselves back down to where they can go back out and enjoy it. So that is another new area that she really pushed for a couple years ago, and it's been really wonderful. Actually, it's a really great area.
I got the little message that said I forgot to unmute myself. Gosh darn it. What about the age groups? Is this open to all ages, or are you focusing only on a certain age group?
It is open to any person of age. We don't discriminate against any kind of disability whatsoever. If somebody feels that their student or grown adult is a special need, then they're more than welcome to come. We have never made it just any kind of discrepancy or whatsoever on that.
Is this, and I know that you guys talked about this earlier, the registration, is this just an open registration, or are you reaching out to some of those entities, such as in the Flint area, you have Elmer Knopf and VIP that deal with people with special needs? Are you targeting those individuals, or is it just anyone can?
They are part of our list as far as a general email. We do submit, there's several schools that come. We've actually now getting them from Livingston and Shiawassee County schools that are coming to sign up for this event. So it's not just, yeah, all those resources, we have all the information on them, and we send them in emails as well.
And if I can just jump in here for a moment too, Brenda, is that our policy until this year has always been, we will not turn down any person with the special needs to attend. But obviously this year is going to be different because of COVID and the guidelines.
Well, we'll see where the guidelines are. I did hear, a little birdie told me that the governor's office is considering opening up festivals and events, especially seeing that the state of New York has opened up festivals and events with limited capacity. So optimism is out there and our numbers have been steadily declining, and our vaccinations are steadily increasing. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed on that. How many years have you guys been doing this?
Approximately 9 years.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it started with 70 and it's now over, I think 2018, we were almost at 1,000 and we had to go back down a little bit. Our facility is not, it's hard to accommodate that many people at one time for 4 hours.
And just so everybody on the call knows, Swarts Creek Hometown Days is a little different than a lot of the other festivals and events because you're not out in a field. You're right downtown in the city on all the different streets and stuff like that. So it is a bit of a challenge, especially for crowd control and traffic because of all the different directions that the festival is set up. Does that cause any challenges with mobility moving people around from area to area?
It does. I mean, it does. We do have on the grounds, when we extended our special day, we extended it to go on Kincaid Field is where we kind of hold all of our tent area, and that has 11 acres, and we probably use about maybe 8 of those, all just tents. And on the outskirts of that, we have an emergency road, what we call emergency road, and a lot of times the guests with wheelchairs and stuff, they will move around the facility on that road. It's a little bit easier than going through the main ground of grounds, because there's no, that's kind of a challenge for that.
I remember doing events myself, and that was always the challenge: is how do we get that grassy field that we just mowed for the event smooth and get the clumps of grass and make sure it's not a trip hazard for everybody, whether they have special needs or not.
Correct.
As I said, we're all tabs. We're all temporarily able-bodied, and I've been known to trip and fall also, tripping over something. So I can imagine the challenges that creates for you. Anybody else on the call have any questions for Brenda or Susan?
I just want to add something here. If anyone would like to come and just view our special needs day, they're certainly welcome to.
And the dates are?
June the 3rd. It's a Thursday.
Swarts Creek, Michigan.
Yep, Swarts Creek, Michigan, just west of Flint. We're exit 128 off 69.
I'm out of questions, guys.
Well, we thank you very much, Mike, for allowing us to be part of this category, and we appreciate that very much.
If no one else has any other questions, anything you want to put in the chat or anything you want to ask themselves, I guess we could let everybody get back to lunch.
When's our delivery coming, Mike?
Wait for it. All right then. Well, Brenda, thank you very much for your insight on that. Special thanks to Amy and the fact that she is dealing with elementary school age children. I know what it's like when my wife comes home from dealing with elementary school age children. I really appreciate what the school teachers are doing. Susan, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. I think it's definitely something we're thinking about, and you know, it's not only is it the right thing to do, but it's also showing social responsibility. So for those of you that are looking at planning festivals and events in your community, to be able to offer this to those within our community that have special needs, I think that's a huge benefit, a huge feather in your cap to be able to do that. So please look into doing that and offering that to those in your community that have those challenges. Unless anybody else has any other questions or comments, anything that you need on from Michigan Festivals and Events is available on our website, michiganfund.com. Molly has put in the chat asking to subscribe to our YouTube channel, putting all of the recorded educational information in there so that you can go back and look at it. And with that, you all have 22 minutes left of lunch. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good day. Bye.
Mike,
Bye.
thank you.